as one voice with a simple message. No. No to the carbon tax. Let us find a better solution. No carbon tax. 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 All right, well, I wanted to thank you all for letting me speak. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being part of this historic day in the history of our province. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Everybody, just so I've heard a few people from the audience asking about where the petition is. The petition is down here on the north side of the plaza here at 2 tables, okay? There's 2 binders that you can sign. Please sign it only once. Please provide your postal code. Please provide your ID to show it to our volunteers just to confirm you are a resident of Alberta, because this is different than an online petition. We're not here signing an online petition because they don't work. We're here signing a physical petition because that's the only thing that the government listens to. And actually, so just so you know, we're going after 500,000 signatures. Do you think there's 500,000 Albertans who will sign this petition? I think so. I'm opposed to this. I think you are too, and everybody that I talk to is.
Go to these websites.
There's only a few people that I talk to, and I've been on the streets for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now, and they're not opposed. There's only a few people who aren't opposed. The majority of people we've spoken to are opposed. So please do sign our petition, which is down here on the north side of the plaza, okay? Coming up here from our group of people, Friends of Science, we've asked her to come up today, Michelle. We wanted to talk about the money trail that follows the eco-activists, the people who are actually running their own agenda, people who are dreaming up green schemes to build their own green energy industry, and they're saying that they can build it better. They need a carbon tax revenue to be able to start their own green machine. So we've got to stand up against that. We can't be having them funding a government-funded energy industry telling us how to do business. This is the place where we learned how to do business. This is where business has prospered for the last 30 years, since Trudeau Sr. left his mark called the National Energy Program. Boo to that! Enough of that! So please sign the petition and do question the media, the people who are telling you that are supporting this carbon tax. There's a few, maybe Suncor, maybe TELUS, but I think they're just trying to position themselves as pro so they can benefit from the carbon tax. So we got to stop that. The people of Alberta have to stop that.
We will.
Anyway, I'll give you the floor here, Michelle. Take it away.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Hello, Alberta! Thank you. I want to say hello, bonjour, bienvenue, and okinapi. I am the communications manager for Friends of Science Society. I formerly worked in Alberta Environment. And in 2005, when I worked there, the Sierra Club gave Alberta an F in their Rio assessment, and they gave Ontario a B+. This is after Alberta had the first environment ministry, the first environment minister, the first carbon tax for large emitters, and 1,000 other firsts. We were way ahead of everybody, not only on the climate change story, but especially on the environment. We have excellent air quality in Alberta. So I want to give the prepared speech here now, but that's my background, and that's why I'm so ticked off and why I'm here. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. My roots go deep in Alberta. In 1912, my grandmother had her honeymoon here at the first Calgary Stampede. Yes, and she and my grandfather homesteaded out by Hanna, Alberta. Yes, Hanna, Alberta, where the NDP government wants to shut enough. That's what they Yes.
Yeah.
So he's explaining, and so are we, that the sun has the most direct and indirect effects on climate, not carbon dioxide. It's the most important driver. And so how can a carbon tax or greenhouse gas reduction stop climate change? It can't. And now many people say, oh, you know, Friends of Science, funded by big oil, funded by big coal. That's not true. Our annual budget is about $150,000, and we get it from individual members, people like you, and some of our members are here today. And these are small contributions. Thank you. But we just work very hard because we believe in this. So many of our members are professional engineers, professional geologists, solar scientists, and these are people who look very carefully at the data. That's why they're questioning this.
We need policies based on reality, not agenda.
Yes. So speaking of geology, just imagine 10,000 years ago, where you are standing right now would have been under 2 miles of ice.
What caused that to form? What caused it to melt?
Yes. So we're here thanks to natural global warming. We can live here. And those forces of nature were so powerful. I don't know if you know this, but the big rock out at Okotoks, which is sacred to the Blackfoot Nation, that big rock was pushed all the way from Jasper, Alberta. All that way. So you can actually go there and see the effect of natural climate change and think about it. Do you think driving your car is going to do that? No. So carbon tax could not have stopped that ice melt. And in our opinion, the climate plan is a deeply flawed document. Part of it is that the climate panel was too one-sided. Everybody on the climate panel worked together before. There is undue influence, we believe, from institutional investors. These are people who have invested in renewable energy. Of course, they want to have renewable energy in Alberta because they're going to get a subsidy from your pocket for a less reliable power grid. We believe that the climate plan and the carbon tax proposed by Alberta and by the federal government will put untenable burden of cost on all of us. And the claim that wind and solar can replace coal-fired power And you saw yesterday in the Herald maybe that TransAlta is concerned. They don't have clear direction on what to do. Well, we may be facing blackouts. So we're looking at billions for blackouts. Billions for blackouts.
Thank you. No, thank you, Rachel.
So now we've been told that we have to phase out coal to protect our health. But in fact, we looked at all the health statistics in Alberta from the primary care networks. 152 of them. And we found that there is no correlation between the health issues that the coal phase out people claim.
It's not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything. In fact, the worst asthma cases were down in the south by the wind farms. Can you believe that? Edmonton has the best air.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, all those wind farms kill birds and bats. Anyway, so I worked at Alberta Environment. I know that our major cities have some of the cleanest air in the world. Most of the time, it's true Edmonton gets a few inversions every year. That's not anything that phasing out coal will help. And what we have done in Alberta is we have reduced noxious pollutants, mercury, NOx, SOx. Our government and our industries worked hand in hand for 20 years to do that, and they've done a great job. To the point where today, today, here's a little example. In Europe, they tried to cut carbon dioxide, so they gave an incentive to diesel. So you know what happens now? Paris has some of the worst air quality in the world because they're all driving on 80% diesel, and it has more polluting emissions. So that's the craziness of this climate change thing. Anyway, we look at Alberta and we can see that people in Alberta live to about age 50 in the 30s. Now we live into our 80s and 90s in good health. Why? Because we had affordable, reliable fossil fuels. We had affordable power. How do you run a hospital without power? You don't. Does anybody here want to have surgery on wind power?
Sorry, you died due to wind.
So we use coal in Alberta, and a lot of people don't understand why. We use it because we have lots of it. It's very high quality, low sulfur, it's near the ground, so it's easy to mine. This is completely unlike Ontario. Ontario had no coal, and they were shipping in like 20% of their power was on coal. Ours is 55%. Over 70% of our base load power, that means like the average daily power we use, comes from coal-fired power. To make that switch will put our entire power infrastructure at risk and will cost us billions for blackouts. Billions! So we just have to look at Ontario. What's happening in Ontario? Wind and solar. People are poor. They can't even pay their monthly bills.
Heat or eat.
Heat or eat poverty. Is that what you want?
Can't buy groceries.
So Alberta's cold and dark in the winter. Affordable, reliable power should be a human right in this country.
And we got 40% of the world's oil.
But you and I are being snubbed by the green crony capitalists and the government who are trying to put together 20-year wind and solar contracts for their buddies. That will take money from your pocket and out of the province. Most of the incoming proponents are from out of Alberta. So it's not diversifying and it's not creating new income here.
Says poor Burman on the panel.
So, taxing carbon dioxide and closing Alberta's modern supercritical plants it won't change the climate, but it will put the economy at risk. 7,000 people in the coal industry will be put out of work. Why? 30 towns will be destroyed. Why? And it will leave your children with billions of dollars in debt. Let me say one more thing. We recently issued an open letter to the Prime Minister, and we pointed out that our resource industries are under attack by a geopolitical trade war cloaked future, Alberta will need lots of affordable, reliable power. This is very important. So that time of the French Revolution, we have to realize that we have been fighting for freedom, human rights, and democracy since that time, and we should not give it up now. My grandparents came to Alberta as a land of opportunity and not oppression. So please, sign the petition. Protect your children from the carbon tax, coal phase-out, the climate hustle, and a debt load of billions of dollars for blackouts. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I hear we're maybe needed to be a bit louder, so I think we're a little louder now. Thank you for that, Michelle, appreciate that. Part of the climate scam here is following the money trail. Where's the money going? Where's the green dream? Where's all that money gonna go? And if we let them do this the way that they're doing it, they're planning on just taking the carbon tax money and putting it into their general revenue account to make up for their lack of funds that they're not getting from us taxpayers who aren't working. So we gotta stand up to this, that they correct the balance of the budget, the balancing of the budget with tax revenue from people who are working, not from taxing people who aren't working. You can't pay taxes if you got no job. So we want to stand up and say, listen, get us back to work so we can actually pay taxes, so we don't have to pay this stupid carbon tax. We want to follow the money trail and question the science that's being used to support these shoddy policies. And so in order to do that, I'm going to pass the mic on to my friend here, Ken Gregory, who has a few things to say about that. Thanks, Ken.
Welcome to the Alberta Wide Valley. Yeah. I've been with the Friends of Science Society for about 10 years, carefully studying climate science and climate policy. I spent 35 years in the oil industry. And today, I will be speaking about climate change and Alberta's climate plan. Since the last great ice age ended 10,000 years ago, we had the warm periods of two Holocene optimums, then cold, then the Roman warm period, then the Dark Age cold period, and the medieval warm period, and then the Little Ice Age, and now the current warm period. The medieval warm period was likely warmer than now. Civilization flourished during the warm periods and suffered famine and hardship during the cold periods. In the 20th century, global temperatures decreased from 1880 to 2010, increased to 1944, decreased to 1976, which caused the great global cooling scare, which peaked when I was in university. Then temperatures increased to 2002 and remained flat through 2014. Then we just experienced that major natural El Nino, which is now subsiding. Climate changes naturally all the time without any help from mankind.
Yeah, we question the science, folks.
Governments are advised by a corrupt United Nations panel on climate change that relies on failed climate models. None of them include significant natural causes of climate change.
It's a scam.
Natural warming has been blamed on greenhouse gases. The average climate model global temperature trend of the bulk atmosphere from 1979 is 2.5 times greater than reality as measured by weather balloons and satellites. In the tropics, the climate model trend is 3 times reality. That's a huge discrepancy from the measurements. That means that climate models are wrong. Climate models' warming rate by latitude region is far from reality. There has been little warming in the tropics and cooling in the southern oceans, but climate models show much warming in both regions. The Canadian climate model, global surface temperature trend, is 4 times reality from 1990. 4 times. The model predicts an enhanced precipitation rate over the tropics due to a predicted increase in water vapor. The weather balloons and satellite data show no enhanced warming at all. The measurements all assume increasing water vapor, which is the most important greenhouse gas. But measurements show upper atmosphere water vapor declined by 7% from 1970, allowing heat to escape to space. This is the primary reason climate models are all running way too hot. All of the UN's panel's projected ranges in each report they published from 1990 to 2013 are way above the observations. Now, the Alberta Climate Plan includes 5 components. 1. Phase out coal-fired power plants by 2030. 2. Cap oil sands carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions. 3. Cut methane emissions by 45% by 2025. And 4. Carbon tax of $20 per ton of CO2 in 2017, about 2 months from now. $30 per ton in 2018. In 2018, there will be a $1.52 per gigajoule tax on natural gas, which is a 60% increase in your energy costs for heating your home. And a 6.7 cents per liter tax on gasoline. 5. Wind and solar companies.
Corporate welfare for the green industry.
The coal phase-out cost will be about $22 billion, including $11 billion for replacement gas-fired power plants and $11 billion for compensation for stranded coal assets. But in addition to that, for the wind and solar, we'll also pay another $6 billion for transmission lines, for a total of $28 billion.
Boo. Boo to that.
Of course, that doesn't include the cost of wind and solar facilities. The Alberta government claims that shutting down coal-fired plants will improve health by reducing particulate emissions or smoke.
Liar!
But smoke from forest fires are about 1,000 times that of coal-fired power plants in Alberta.
What are you going to do about that?
1,000 times more.
1,000 times more. The UN panel published a high greenhouse gas emissions forecast. Temperatures increased by 3.5 degrees by the year 2100 in that forecast. They assume a 10-fold increase in coal use in the world by the year 2100. And the world's declining population growth rate starts to accelerate. The oceans, which currently sequester a quarter of our CO2 emissions, suddenly fail to absorb CO2. It is a barking mad, ludicrous forecast. But most politicians call it a business as usual case. It is not.
It's far from it.
The UN panel's estimate of climate sensitivity with only an exponential increase would be only 1.2 degrees Celsius by the year 2100. But even that is way, way too much. The natural millennium cycle, as we described, shows that some of the 20th century warming was a natural warming from the Little Ice Age. Also, the temperature indices used by the UN panel are hopelessly contaminated by the effects of urban development. In the USA, only 11% of stations are in suitable locations. 69% are within 10 meters of an artificial heat source. Now, 2 major studies, technical studies, show that almost half of the warming over land is due to urban development.
Urban heat effect.
So what is the UN's panel to these technical studies? They dismiss them with a nonsense statement, and I quote, "The location of greatest socio-economic development are also those that have been most warned by natural atmospheric circulation changes, end quote. Oh yeah? That means Calgary is warming more than the surrounding countryside, not because of buildings and 1.2 million people, because natural climate change warmed Calgary, but not the nearby farmland. That's complete nonsense.
There used to be a tree.
Garbage.
Now a parking lot.
When we account for natural millennium warming and the urban warming effect and new aerosol estimates, temperatures are forecast to increase from now by only 0.6 degrees by the year 2100 due to greenhouse gases, not 3.5 degrees Celsius. Again, assuming we take no further action to limit CO2 emissions. Now, recall that this is using the greenhouse gas forcings from the United Nations panel. Using this climate response, we can determine the result of the Alberta Climate Plan. The Alberta Climate Panel had forecast the emissions reduction by 2030. That will reduce global temperatures by 0.00007 degrees Celsius, less than
Not even 1 degree.
10,000ths of a degree Celsius.
That's legit.
What a bunch of garbage.
Utterly insignificant. Two economic models indirectly used by the Alberta Climate Panel to estimate the social cost of emissions do not include any benefits. Read that. Does not include any benefits. These models use the UN Climate Panel's forecast, not reality, and they are used to set the carbon tax. There is only one economic model in the world, the fund model, that estimates the social cost and benefits of carbon dioxide emissions. When using our realistic climate response to greenhouse gas emissions, the model shows that globally the net benefits, net of potential costs, are about $22 Canadian per ton of CO2. That's a huge net social benefit of fossil fuels use. They should be subsidized, not taxed. Canada is a cold country, and we benefit the most by warming. In Canada, net benefits of CO2 emissions increase throughout the 21st century. This is based on the fund model. The economic forecasts project gross income per person in 2100 will be 5 times that of today, despite warming. The climate plan transfers wealth from us to the extremely wealthy people of the future, according to these models. Carbon taxes increases the cost of all goods and services. It is regressive, hurts the poor, and benefits only crony capitalists and government bureaucrats.
How do you feel about crony capitalists and government bureaucrats? I feel pretty bad about that.
Stand up.
The UN panel ignored 123 peer-reviewed articles published from 2008 through 2012 that show the sun is a major driver of climate. There were another 290 papers published since the beginning of 2014 that show the sun climate link. The UN panel wrote in their last report, and I quote again, many empirical relationships have been reported between solar activity and some aspect of the climate system. The forcing from changes in total solar irradiance alone does not account for these observations, implying the existence of an amplifying mechanism, end quote. That means solar effects is much greater than the direct heat effect. Solar